How concerned should flyers be? Former federal Air Marshal T Gilliam says very. 129 handguns, rifles. How do you smuggle rifles inside of a plane? And this is nuts.
How? I'll tell you how. You utilize the unawareness, if that's a word, the lack of awareness by the airline industry and the other employees to get it in there. I mean, that's really.
Okay, the handgun thing, you could say, okay, you put a couple handguns in a bag, but rifles? I mean, this is nuts.
Bad policy, and I don't know who the guy was that they had the quote there for a second ago, but saying that this is potentially, something that could be used as terrorism. But this is nothing new. This is how they got some of the box cutters onto the planes during 9/11.
So if that's the case, and that's several years, 13 years ago. Mm-hmm. How come, whose responsibility is this? Airlines, the aviation department, Homeland Defense, who's in charge of this, and how did you have such a gaping hole that 129 handguns have been delivered from down south to New York City?
Well, you have bad policies, and you have people who don't take security serious enough. Even
who's got to take it seriously? Who's got to say, "Hey, this is nuts," and start to close up these loopholes?
Well, I think to use an example everybody's familiar with right now. Let's look at Sony. Sony, they should have all people. Sony should have known that the internet is vulnerable, and you have open source material people can get in there. It's the same thing here. You have to take it seriously. The people who run these airlines, they have to have good policy and realize where and forward think where the holes are that are in their security procedures. And then, TSA, Homeland Security, all these different FBI, we need to be really focusing on where these holes are, but they put all their effort into a bottleneck called the security checkpoint.
Right. And, we should also let the audience know we did get in touch with TSA. They have not provided us with a comment just yet on that. And, sort of reminds me of 9/11 because FBI had a little bit of information. CIA might have had a little bit of information. Sure. Other law enforcement organizations. Do you ever get the sense there's just so many enforcement agencies and they sort of have their own turf and they don't relate and they don't talk to each other? I mean, sounds like something I would see on a cheesy movie script saying, right, hey, it's okay to watch, on a Saturday night in the theaters, but it can never happen.
You don't have to assume that might be the case. That is the case. And this is where I think these big industries have to realize that they're going to have to do a lot of this stuff on their own. Sony and other, big studios, they need to make sure that they are secured. The same thing goes with the airline industry. And here's the biggest takeaway from this. Don't just hire somebody who was a former police officer or even like myself, a former Navy SEAL or Air Marshal. You need to hire somebody who can manage and knows the different compartments of security and where these threats come from so they can handle and hire the right people.
Jonathan, I say you better hurry up and get out of here because this sounds like you got a big job waiting for you down in Atlanta.
Yeah.
We need you. All right.